Hi boys and girls, today we're going to read one of my favorite stories teaching us how to save our planet, and it is about a little boy named George, and the title of the story is George Saves the World by Lunchtime. Okay? It is written by a woman named Jo Reedman, and it is illustrated by another woman called Leigh Honor Roberts. So, are you ready to begin? Let's do it. What are you going to do today, George? Asked Grandpa on one sunny Saturday morning. Today, said George, I'm going to save the world. Good plan, said Grandpa. Flora and I, so Flora is actually his little sister, Flora and I will help you. Let's see if we can save the world by lunchtime. So that's Flora, that's the big brother George, their little dog, and their grandpa. George wanted to save the world right away. He ate his breakfast quickly and threw all the leftovers into the bin. So it's called a rubbish bin or a garbage can. Whoa, slow down, George, said Grandpa. We might be able to use some of that later on. What? Said George. But that's garbage, he said. Aha, said Grandpa. Don't be too sure. So we're gonna find out because he threw out his banana peel, his old yogurt container, and seems like some baked beans and also an egg container. So he threw out quite a lot of stuff that is actually not garbage. And Grandpa is going to explain that later. So there are some tips for saving the world by lunchtime. 3 things that we can do. Actually, there are 4 R's. Reduce. Reduce means to use less of everything. So we're talking about use less water, use less electricity, use less paper. Reuse. Reuse means to clean something up and use it again. So for example, here they took an old yogurt pot. So it's the same one that he had thrown into the garbage. We can either reuse it by, I don't know, for example, putting some soil in it and planting a new plant in it. So that's reusing. Or if you don't want to reuse it for that purpose, you can always just recycle it, okay? Then there's another R, repair. So repair means to fix it and to use it again. So for example, if you have if you have a book or a magazine that has a torn page, don't put it into the garbage. All you need to do is to fix it with some Scotch tape, and then you can use it or read it again. And the last one is to recycle. Recycling is when you turn it into something else useful. So here are some old jars, old glass jars that are empty, and so if you recycle them, they go to a factory and then they make it into other new things that are made of glass. All right? So those are the 4 R's to saving the planet. Now, said Grandpa, turn off the lights, and then we're going to hang out the washing. I don't have time to go hang out some washing, said George. I'm a world-saving superhero, you know. I don't have time for that. Exactly, said Grandpa. Saving electricity will help you to save the world. So he thought that, he was like, why should I turn off the lights? Well, did you know that turning off the lights is called reducing, meaning using less electricity, so that it's a way to save our planet and to make sure we're not using too many natural resources. So instead, use the wind and the sun to dry the washing instead of a tumble dryer. So also when you finish washing the clothes, instead of putting it in the other machine to dry it, you should just put them onto a clothing line and let them dry naturally with the sun. Because when we use the dryer, it actually uses a lot of electricity as well. So if it's a beautiful sunny day, why not just hang up the washing? Right. Now, let's go and clean out your room, said Grandpa. Ugh, said George. I'm saving the world, remember? Cleaning up your room is not saving the world. Well, actually, you are, said Grandpa. We're going to take all the old toys you don't want to play with anymore, and we're going to give it to a charity shop. That is helping the world, said Grandpa. And George was like, ugh, I really don't want to do that. But it is a really good way to save the planet, because when you have old toys or books or things like that that you don't want anymore, instead of throwing them out, you can give them to a shop, a charity shop, and then people are going to go into the charity shop and buy your old toys and your old things for a very, very low price. And then that is called reusing. So even though if you don't want your stuff anymore, someone else can buy them and they can play with it again. So this is another boy playing with all of his old games. Other people can read your old books again. So if there's books that you don't want, other people would love to read it. And of course, if you have some clothes that are too small for you, you can give them away to a charity shop or to your cousin or your friends, and they can wear it again. So just because you don't want them anymore doesn't mean that they're not useful for somebody else. Grandpa looked at George's broken car. I can fix that if you'd like, Grandpa told him. So it's missing a wheel. You'll have to do it this morning, Grandpa, said Flora, because we're going to save the world by lunchtime. So, fixing the old car is also considered saving the world because it is one of the 4 R's. Repair. Repair things to make them last longer. So for example, here we have a pair of jeans that has holes on the knees because you know when you play outside in the garden, sometimes you make little holes in your pants. So instead of throwing them away, they just took some little patches and they stuck it onto the knees. They asked mommy or daddy to sew it onto the knees, and now you can wear the jeans again. And of course, we've talked about if you have a book that with a torn page, don't throw it out. All you need is some scotch tape and some scissors, and you can fix it and then read it again. And finally, if you have some shoes that are a bit broken or old, you can always take it to the shoemaker and he can mend it for you and fix it for you so that you can wear your favorite shoes again. So repair is also a very important way to save our planet. George and Flora went downstairs to have a drink. We are going to sort the rubbish for recycling now, said Grandpa. Oh, Grandpa, said George. That's not what I meant by saving the world. Maybe not, said Grandpa. But by recycling and by sorting our recycling, you are really saving the planet. For real? Said George. Yeah, said Grandpa, smiling. You've been saving the world all morning and you didn't even know it. So, the fourth R is recycle. So almost all of your garbage can be recycled. So for example, all the things that are made of plastic, for example, these empty plastic milk jugs can be recycled. Cans, all those cans of like Coca-Cola and things like that can be recycled. Paper that you don't need anymore. Glass, things like bottles and jars can be recycled. And finally, something called compost. So compost is also recycling for food garbage. So for example, old eggshells, orange peels, banana peels, and also old newspaper that you can shred up. You can take all that and put it into a compost heap, which we will show you later. And so basically, when you recycle these things, then you avoid putting more garbage into the landfills. George followed Grandpa out into the garden. I was only playing a game before, he said, but I'd much rather save the earth and the planet for real. What can I do next? Well, said Grandpa, you can put all the compost into the compost heap. All the vegetables and the banana peels and the eggshells, you can put it into this big box that's filled with dirt and worms. And then they're going to transform that. The worms are going to transform all those food waste into a nice healthy soil, which will then be used to give soil to the garden. So here are all the vegetables and the plants that they are growing. And so they take that soil and they put it in here, and then it helps the plants to grow better. And he said, you can also help to take Fluffy's poo. So Fluffy is their pet rabbit. You can take her poo and put it also into the compost. So did you know that even animal poo, like the rabbit's poo, don't throw that away. You can put it into the compost heap, mix it with all the food waste, and then it's going to become really healthy soil. Sounds a little bit not very nice, but it's actually good for the planet. So soon it will turn into food for the plants, said Grandpa. Ugh, said George. He was glad that he wasn't a plant. The compost doesn't look very good to eat.